I'm sure that it is worth it. Because this session was to be conducted in North America, these are statistics of North America. However, other countries, and especially Asia and India, are not very, very far behind. I thought I would give you a few statistics in order to situate what I am going to say. So there are 40% of North Americans when it was 29% in 78, but 40% today who think that marriage is becoming obsolete. And there are 44% of those between 18 and 29. So you can see there are more younger people today, that is 44%, as compared with 40%, who think that marriage is obsolete. And so therefore, the question which we have to ask ourselves is that formerly, the age for women was much, much younger. Now, even the median age at which a woman is getting married is 26 years, and a man, 28 years. And then on top of that, for the first time in 50 years, the number of unmarried people between the ages of 25 and 34 outnumbers the number of married people in the same age range. That means between 25 and 34, that is what we would consider marriageable age, more people are unmarried than married. Young adults between 18 and 29 are more likely to have an unmarried or divorced parent, and that has made a difference in how they view marriage, and I will come to that point a little later. Of the respondents of this survey, 86% believe that a single parent and child constitute a family. So the family is not the father and the mother and the child. The family is either the father and a child, or the family is a mother and a child. It doesn't matter. You don't need three. You have only two. There is the child and the one parent, and that constitutes a family. 80% said that an unmarried couple living together with a child is a family. And 63% said that same-sex couples raising a child is a family. So very clearly, the idea of family, which was traditional, mommy, daddy, child, or children, is changing tremendously, and I would say not only in North America, but all over the world. When asked why they tied the knot, and this is important for us to understand, still 93% respondents said because of love. They loved each other, and that is why they got married. 93%. 87% said that they wanted to make a lifelong commitment. 81% said companionship. 59% said having children, which is surely much higher than 50% or 49%. And so the majority also want to have children. And financial stability has come very low at 31%. This is because both now, male and female, have learned to be independent. So in other words, the man need not depend on the wife, the woman, and the woman, the wife, need not depend on the husband. So financial stability was a very low 31% with regard to why a person wanted to marry. In 1960, 72% of adults were married. Now that number is around 52%. And so the point is this, and all these statistics are basically to show you this: not only are more people getting divorced today, but more people are saying I don't, or they are saying I don't want to. And so you may ask, why is this so? If I were asked to give an overarching reason a broad reason, a reason which will take in every other reason, if I were asked to give that reason, I would say it is instant gratification. We are living in a world which is a world of now. I want everything now. I cannot wait for the next moment. The social media and this internet and Facebook and the iPhone and the iPad and Zoom and now all the other social media sites, and including these platforms where you can reach out to people, every single one is speaking of instant gratification. In the former days, it used to only be instant coffee. That was the name that we heard, instant coffee. But now it's instant coffee, instant tea, instant snacks, instant food, and instant everything. And so instant gratification. In other words, we cannot wait. We have lost the ability to wait. So if I were asked to summarize, why would the larger majority not want to marry? My overarching reason would be because of the fact that we are influenced now by instant gratification. Another reason why youngsters do not want to marry is because the parents have not set a good example of what a marriage is. Often I get parents coming to me to say, Father, my son, my daughter, who's now gone to college or has just begun working, has stopped coming to church, and I'm very, very worried about them. What should I do? And I keep telling them, what you need to do is this: be an example to your children, be an example of positivity, be an example of optimism, be an example of perseverance with your children, so that when they look at you, they will be inspired that you, because you are going to church regularly, because you are so close to God on a regular daily basis, this is how you are. So when you set that example, they will see that example. I do not know whether it was, but I think it was Albert Einstein who said, example is not only the best way of influencing someone, example is the only way. And there is another saying where we say actions speak louder than words. And so, if the couple is not a happy couple, if the couple are constantly at loggerheads with each other, if the couple are constantly trying to be one up on the other and pull the other down and demean the other and berate the other, then the children are going to pick this up more than they are going to pick up anything else. I'm sure, and I've seen from the names, that there are many of you who have been married for some time. And I know you, and I know your children, and I also know that your children are married. And if I were to ask your children why they married, one reason would be you. That is, they saw you as a happy couple. They saw you as a loving couple. The example that you set to your children of marriage was such a beautiful example that they said to themselves, yes, I want to marry. I want to marry. I want to have a family of my own. I want my family to be like my mummy's family and my daddy's family and the family that I had as a child. So setting an example of persevering in marriage, as I said, because we are living in this world of instant gratification, we have lost this quality of perseverance. We are unable to persevere. We are unable to persist. We are unable to keep on keeping on. We give up too easily. We give up too easily. And so this independence, for example, that each one of us wants has become now primary and more than anything else. Another reason why some give or do not get married is because they say, why get stuck in a marriage? A marriage basically has legality. So why get into a legal challenge, a legal problem, and have one partner when variety is the spice of life? And so it would be, if I am free, if I am not married, I can have as many partners as I want. I don't have to be tied down to one person. I don't have to be caught with one person. I don't have to make my commitment to one person. And imagine to make my commitment to one person for the rest of my life. No, that is not for me. So I prefer to be free. I prefer to be independent. I do not want someone to be dependent on me. And so this debate, which sometimes is had between dependency and freedom. So my wife, my husband is dependent on me, my children are dependent on me, or I am dependent on my wife or husband, and so on. No, I don't want that dependence. I don't want to be tied down. I want my freedom. So dependency is seen as the opposite of freedom. And because a person does not want to be dependent, a person prefers to be free. However, the challenge is this, that while there is instant gratification, there is also often with instant gratification, instant regret. And then to keep in mind that if something is really, really good, it takes time. And what each one of us needs to ask ourselves is these questions. And that is, am I willing to wait? Any one of us who enjoys having coffee will know the difference between a cup of instant coffee and between a cup of coffee that has been brewed and allowed to brew. Even the aroma of that coffee which has been allowed to brew is enough to satisfy. But then, for the coffee to brew, you have to give it time. You have to wait. Second, there is no doubt. There is no doubt that when you make a commitment to a person, when you give yourself totally to a person, you are taking a risk. And so marriage surely is a risk. And the question is, I have to ask myself, am I willing to take that risk? Today, because both the man and the woman, both are financially independent, both have wonderfully good jobs, both know their own persons, both are independent and have been managing on their own. Because that is the case, it is not easy for them. It's not easy for them to take that risk, to put themselves into the hands and heart of another. And because this is the case, there are some who do not want to take the risk. They say, no, I cannot take such a risk. It's too risky. Marriage is too risky. And then I need to ask myself, am I willing to give? Today, unfortunately, more than before, we are takers rather than givers. We prefer to take rather than to give. And that's why it's not easy for me to make that commitment where I have to make adjustments, where I have to give of myself to the other person, where I have to give of my heart to the other person. It's not easy. And am I willing to love? This word love, unfortunately, is a word that has been used so loosely that we have often forgotten the meaning, and we very rarely mean love when we use the word love. What we often mean when we use the word love is barter exchange. You give me, I give you. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. You pat me on the back, I pat you on the back. That is barter exchange. So in the supermarkets, of course, you cannot even go to the supermarkets nowadays, but in the supermarkets, that is what happens. In the stores, that is what happens. When you go shopping, that is what happens. That is barter exchange. You give currency, you gain your goods. That is barter exchange. That is not love. Love is unconditional. If love has to be called love, it is unconditional. And my own definition of love, I will give you later on Paul's definition of love, which is very beautiful. But my own definition of love is this: that if I look at the word love, I see there's an L, and there's an O, and there's a B, and there's an E. But there is no I. There is no I. So if I do not put the I, only then can I love. That is my definition of love. And so the question is this: why would I say marriage is worth it? Or what would be the reasons why I would say that a couple ought to marry? And so the first is this, that it is clear, it is very, very clear that married couples undergo less stress. That married couples undergo less stress. In other words, in a survey of married, unmarried, of divorced, of separated, bachelors, spinsters, it was very, very clear that it was the married couples who had the least stress levels. Now, what the reason is, or what the reasons are tremendous. The fact that you have someone to support you, the fact that you have someone to care for you, the fact that you have someone to go home to, the fact that you know someone will be waiting for you, the fact that someone will prepare a cup of tea for you, the fact that someone will prepare a meal for you, the fact that someone will be by your side. All of these, even inadvertently, not you're realizing them all the time, even inadvertently, are responsible for reducing the stress levels. And so the persons who are married surely have less stress levels. Connected with this is married couples are less likely to be depressed. By the way, these are studies. I'm not saying this because I want to say it. I'm just quoting studies, and then I will say later what I want to say. But just to give you scientific, you might say, research reasons why married couples or why people marry. Married couples are less likely to be depressed. And once again, Once again, the possible reason is that you have got someone whom you can share with at the most intimate levels, the person who knows you through and through, the person who has made a commitment to you, the person who has said that he or she would be with you in good times, in bad, in sickness, in health. So you know that that person is with you, and so you share. You let go of what is troubling you. You let go of what is hurting you. And when you let it go, then your stress levels reduce, your depression levels reduce, and you are less likely to indulge in risky behavior. It is said that when sorrow is shared, it is halved. It becomes less in my heart when I'm able to share it, and especially share it not to a psychologist. You can also do that to a psychiatrist, to a psychologist, and to a priest. Surely you can do that. You go to the sacrament of reconciliation if you are a Catholic, and you're able to share it with the priest there also, who will keep it to himself. You're able to go to a psychiatrist and pay $200 an hour, for example, and share there, and that psychiatrist also will possibly keep it to him or herself. But that is different, quite different from sharing with a spouse. And because you're able to share with your spouse, someone who is your heart, someone who is part of your being, because that is the case, your sorrow levels are halved, or even more than halved, 1/3. And therefore, you are less likely to indulge in risky behavior. This is a song which I would like you to keep if you are a married couple, and like you to imagine if you are contemplating marriage, or even if you're not contemplating marriage. When I give a homily to married couples, one of the points I make is, and it is summarized by the song. I'm not going to say the words of the song. I'm not going to read the song, but I'm going to say what I summarize. And the reason why I picked up this song is because I summarize with the married couple in my homily in these words, which I think are explained very beautifully in this song. And they are this. I say to the husband and to the wife, I say to the boy and to the girl who are married, I say, my friend, it is likely that your family, your mom, your dad, your siblings might disown you. It's likely that your mom and dad might say, you are not our son, you are not our daughter. It's likely your siblings might say, you are not our brother, you are not our sister. They might say that. It is likely the boss in the office, if you are working, if you are an employee, might really get on your nerves and might berate you in front of everyone. The boss in the office might insult you and tell you that you are on notice. It's likely if you are in business, you'll have a tremendously trying and a tremendously challenging day. It's likely that when you're coming home from work, you might really have it so difficult that the public transport will be so crowded that you can hardly breathe. And I say, and you come home. And when you come home, you know there will be someone who will say to you, it does not matter. It does not matter what your mommy and daddy say. It does not matter what your siblings say. It doesn't matter what your boss in the office says. It doesn't matter what your friends say. It does not matter what the business is saying, because I believe in you. I trust you. I love you. This is what I mean by you will never walk alone. It is likely that it might seem that the world around you is collapsing, as in these COVID-19 times. The world around us is collapsing. Where do I turn? To whom do I go? Whom do I share with? There is one person in your spouse who is saying to you, it does not matter. It doesn't matter if they think ill of you. It doesn't matter if they berate you. It doesn't matter if they do not value you. It does not matter if they do not see you as you are, because I see you as you are. I believe in you. I trust you. I will always love you. And this is what I mean by you will never walk alone. And so walk on with hope in your heart. And the hope in your heart is your spouse. The hope in your heart is your spouse. And with that hope in your heart, with that spouse in your heart, you will never, never walk alone. So your dreams might be tossed and blown. Everything might go topsy-turvy, but you will never walk alone. And so I'm going to offer you from my experience suggestions to stay in love in a marriage. How do I continue to remain in love? Somebody said so beautifully, and I'm sure you heard this before, marriage is falling in love again and again and again and again, but with the same person. So marriage is falling in love with the same person. Honestly, I do not really like that term falling in love, because if you fall in love, you can fall out of love. But for the sake of the saying, let us accept it. Marriage is falling in love, or marriage is staying in love for the rest of your life with the same person. And so these are suggestions which I'm going to give you to stay in marriage. And the first, no matter how many years you are married, is innovation and creativity in your marriage is the need of the hour. Let me give you an example. Like you who are married or contemplating marriage, have made or will make a commitment to one person, I too have made a commitment in my life. My commitment is to my vows of poverty, of chastity, and of obedience. Your commitment is to your spouse. So both of us, in a way, from the point of view of commitment, are in a similar boat. We are both making and have made our commitment. Now for me also, like for you, it becomes a challenge. When I celebrate Mass, for example, I celebrate Mass day after day after day after day after day. Sometimes, because of whatever reason, I have to celebrate 2 and 3 Masses in a day. And obviously, it is dangerous because it can become a routine. It can become just another habit. And I can just recite the words, and I can just mouth the words, and I can just say the formulas as if they mean nothing at all. So what I need, and this is my suggestion to you, what I need is to be innovative, is to be creative. And you, in your marriage, no matter how many years you are married, need to be innovative and creative. Let me give you an example. Supposing you know that your spouse enjoys a hot cup of tomato soup, supposing, and your menu, the menu in your home, does not provide for tomato soup today. Supposing on the quiet, you make that tomato soup, even though it is not the day, because families have possibly menus of what they will have on different days. Supposing you jump the rule, you break the rule, and you make that tomato soup. Wow, that's innovation, that's creativity. Supposing your spouse likes a cup of ginger tea. You make that. So in other words, I'm saying You have got to be innovative, you have got to be creative, and you got to do things for one another which will surprise the other. And especially when you know that your spouse likes something. Now, that does two things. First, you're giving a message to your spouse that you know what he or she likes. You're giving a message. And second message you're giving to your spouse, by doing that, you're saying that his or her happiness is as important to you, is as valuable to you as your own. So when I celebrate a Eucharist, I keep praying to the Lord to give me this grace. And how do I try to be innovative and creative when celebrating the Eucharist? I say, Lord, give me the grace before I can start, before I can enter this celebration, to imagine that after this Eucharist, you're going to call me to yourself. I'm going to go up to you. And when this realization sets in, I celebrate that Eucharist as if it were my last. And the reality is, and the point is, that really I do not know whether it will indeed be the last. And it could very well be. And so you also, when you are dealing with your spouse, think of this innovation, think of this creativity. What does my spouse enjoy? What makes my spouse really, really happy? Sometimes it could be something edible. Sometimes it could be something else, whatever that might be. So you know your spouse well. And so what you've got to do, you have got to be innovative, you have got to be creative, and most important, surprise your spouse. And don't surprise your spouse once a year on the birthday. As a matter of fact, on the birthday, there is no surprise, because on the birthday, the spouse might be expecting it. But supposing you can plan even this maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on what surprises you are planning, and each of you surprises each other, then believe me when I say you will start competing with each other to start surprising each other. But what is required? Remember, what is required is perseverance. That gratification can never be instant. Instant gratification, instant regret. Things take time, and therefore, persevere in this. Secondly, in this, keep in mind that there might be the danger that your spouse might not respond as creatively or as innovatively as you would expect, because you were innovative, you were creative, you did things. It is likely that your spouse might respond or might not respond, and then you will say, oh, I am only doing it, she's not doing it, or he's not doing it. Now that is the danger. That is not love. If you're doing it because you expect him or her to do it, then you're once again in barter exchange. And I say to you, you need to stop barter exchanging, because barter exchange is done in stores and malls and outside the home, not in the home. So you've got to tell yourself, yes, I am doing this, but for one reason and one reason alone, that is the joy that I see on my spouse's face. The joy and the happiness that is within, it bubbles up within my spouse. That is all that I'm doing it for. And if you convince yourself that you are doing it for that reason, then you will be able to persevere and be innovative and be creative. And take it from me when I say that your spouse will return the compliment, even if not sooner, later. And even if your spouse does not, you are quite detached, because you have done it not because you expected your spouse to be innovative and creative just because you were, but because you wanted to make your spouse happy. So that is the first thing I would suggest, that you need to be innovative and creative. Many of these young couples who are here, I've seen them, will tell you that one of the things I ask them to promise me, I tell them, do not pay me a stipend, do not give me any money, you keep your money for yourself, you are a young couple, I want you to do well, so keep the stipend for yourself, but I want you to give me a gift. And that gift is this, that you set a time in the day, you set a place in your home, and you come together at that time, in that place, hold hands. Now, please remember, we say social distancing. No, we are not talking of social distancing. Honestly, that's a wrong term. It's physical distancing. Get my point? Social distancing, no, we can be very close socially, but we can be very far physically. Physical distancing is the need of the hour, not social distancing. So I can, if I don't need to hold my hand of my spouse for whatever reason, you know where you are, come together. Wear your mask if you want to wear your mask, no problem. Wear the mask, but at that time, in that place, maybe physically far away from each other, but heart-wise, intimately close to each other, repeat the promise that you made on your wedding day. I take you to be my husband. I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. In other words, that commitment that you make covers everything, good times and bad. So you notice there are no other times. There are either good times or there are bad times. There is either sickness or there is health. So in other words, at every single moment, I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. Now, what was the reason why I said fix a time, fix a place, and come together for this? Let us assume, now of course COVID has changed the situation tremendously, but let us assume that there is a particular morning and you are still able to go to work, you're able to go to the office. Let us take for granted you're able to go to the office. And let us assume that before you leave for the office, you and your spouse get into a sort of argument. And you go to your work and you say, why should I call? And your spouse is at his work or at home, and the spouse says, why should I call? And you both do not call, you both do not text, you both do nothing, you both do not send a WhatsApp, nothing. Now, supposing 9:30 at night. Supposing 9:30 at night is the time which you have fixed to renew this commitment. You know because you have made that commitment. And your spouse knows because he or she has made that commitment that he or she will be there. It could be in your bedroom if you are fortunate to have a bedroom. It could be in your hall if you are fortunate to have a hall and a bedroom. It could be in your room if you are only living in one room. It could be in this place where you both of you lie down and go to sleep. It could be there, so you come there and you know that because your spouse is true, he or she is going to be there. Then what happens is this. The argument of the day, the reason why you argued is forgotten. You have come together. Possibly, if you're able to hold hands, you are holding hands and you are renewing your commitment. And when you renew that commitment, what happens is this. Your mind goes back to that beautiful day when you made that commitment, whether in a church or in any other place, wherever you made that commitment, your mind goes back to that and all the wonderful memories, the preparation for that day and the manner in which that day went, that comes to the fore and you're so excited about this. So the renewal of the commitment each day, remember this, when you renew your commitment, I tell the young couple, supposing you do not pray the rosary together, supposing you do not make any other prayer together, supposing you do not do anything else together, if you do this, which will take you, believe me when I say, it will take you less than a minute of your day. It will take you less than a minute of your day. If you do this regularly, I can assure you, your love will remain fresh. And for your information, there are couples whom I married 25 years ago, and couples whom I married 3 years ago, and couples whom I married 5 years ago, many of whom are in Canada now, who keep telling me, Father, we do what you said, and we realize our love is fresh. I can name the couples, but I don't want to embarrass them. I can name them who write to me and say, Father, we did this and our love is fresh. So renew your commitment. Please remember, it does not matter. It does not matter if you have been married for 50 years or for 40 years or for 25 years. You can begin this renewal even now. It's a beautiful prayer. It's such a beautiful prayer. And I believe the prayer goes directly to the heart of God. Because the Lord has created male and female because he wants our world to continue, because God wants our world to continue. And so when there is this continuation, or there is an attempt at this continuation, I believe God looks with love. And so renew your commitment each day. Another quality which you must develop is the quality of openness. What do I mean by openness? Surely some of you might say to me, Father, but I've been married for 40 years. And I say to you, even if you have been married for 40 years, it is very, very possible that there are things about your spouse that you still do not know. In the old days, it seemed to be outdated. In the old days, basically what we used to talk about was a Johari window. Johari window was something which we said was a 4-part window. And in this 4-part window, basically what we were saying was that first, there are things which I know and which everyone knows. So that is one part of me. Second, there are things which I know, but others do not know. That is the hidden part of me. There are things which I do not know, but others know. And that I must try to increase and say, okay, let me be open and see what they know. And there are things which neither I know nor anyone else knows. And so basically, openness means I have a lot to learn about my spouse. And no matter what happens, he or she will change. And I too make mistakes. And I say, let me change. The next is free will. How would I define free will? I mentioned this at least twice so far, and I repeat it because often in our relationships, we do not seem to understand this, which is I do what has to be done and I leave the rest to God. I do what has to be done and I leave the rest to God. That means I do not wait for another person to do it. I do not wait for my spouse to do it. I do not wait for someone else to do it. I simply do what has to be done and I leave the rest to God. That is what free will means. When I see something which requires to be done, this is done and I leave it. Now, what I would like you to do is this. Look at the word love. And I would like you to do two things now, even as you would look at the word love. Substitute the word love first point, the first thing to do, for your name. Since I don't want to embarrass anyone who is here by taking your name, I'll take my name, even though it's very difficult for me to do this. Errol is patient. Errol is kind. Errol is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. Errol does not insist on his own way. Errol is not irritable or resentful. Errol does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. Errol bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Errol's love will never end. The last time I put the word love. Now, the second thing you do, substitute love for your wife's or your husband's name. And if you do this every day as your prayer, let me assure you, if you say, Father, this is the only prayer I make where I put my name and I try to follow that quality. I try to be patient. I try to be kind. I try not to be boastful. I try not to be envious or arrogant or rude. If you say that to me, I see you're praying in a fantastic manner as a husband or as a wife. It's such a simple way of praying that really, I don't think we could be simpler in prayer. And not only that, you realize something which Paul says, love keeps no record whatever. It does not keep any record. And so therefore, I would say to you, substitute your name and put down your name. And if you like, make this as part of your examination of your consciousness. I tell many who come to me for spiritual direction that prayer is not as important as the examination of consciousness. Why? Because if I am faithful to my examination of consciousness, then in my examination of consciousness, I will also know how I have prayed. So in inverted commas, I check my prayer, I test my prayer, I look at my prayer in my examination of consciousness. And so in your examination of consciousness, what you can do is this. Take each of these adjectives, these qualities, and see on a scale of 1 to 10, how close or how far you are. 10 is the beautiful maximum. So love is patient. Are you patient on a scale of 1 to 10? Where would your level of patience come? 6? Okay, no problem. I'm going to make it 7 from afternoon to night, or tomorrow I'm going to try that my patience reaches a level of 7. Kindness. At what level are you? 8. Okay, I'm going to try to make it at a level of 8.5 tomorrow. Am I envious? Yes, my envy is tremendous. I am at a level of 6. Let me bring it down. Let me bring it down. Let me be less envious, less boastful, less arrogant, less rude. Do I always want to have my own way? I will not give in. I will not give in. I will not give up. Do I want to have my own way always? Or can I let my spouse have his or her way sometimes or most of the time? So you notice, if you want to take this, just these simple, beautiful qualities, some are positive, others are negative, some are to be desired, others not to be held on to. If you can take them, then you realize it's such a beautiful way in which you can pray. This word is a word which modern psychologists use, where they call it not confrontation, but they use the word carefrontation. What is the meaning of carefrontation? Carefrontation means I try as much as possible to tell my husband or wife in as gentle a manner, I tell my husband or wife my basic points. In other words, this is what I think. This is where you can reach. I show genuine concern. What happens very often is this, that we confront each other. We begin to argue with each other. We tell the other person that he or she is wrong. And often we tell the person that he or she is wrong when the fault occurs or when the challenge occurs. That is the worst time. Sometimes I've noticed that people correct their children the moment a mistake is made, and I say that's the worst time to correct your child, the worst time to correct your spouse. The time to correct your spouse is when you are at peace with yourself, when you are equanimity, maybe a day after, maybe 2 days after that has occurred, then you can correct your spouse. So carefrontation basically means that you and your spouse will sit together. You will show genuine concern for each other, and you will encourage your husband or wife to reach those new heights through that genuine concern. Pushing together instead of pulling apart. If each of the couple, husband and wife, and also children, each one has a role to play. You see, in different families, there are different roles which are assigned to the spouse, to the husband, to the wife, to the children. Now, what we need to keep in mind is you have to know the role you are playing. Sometimes it is the husband who makes a decision. At other times, it is the wife who makes the decision. At other times, the children are consulted. At other times, the children might not be consulted. Today, of course, living as you do in North America, it is not so easy not to consult the children, but that is another story. But my point to you is this, that each one of you must decide whether this decision will be taken by the husband, will be taken by the wife, will be taken together, will be in consultation with the children. So pushing together is basically when everyone knows their role and where everyone knows what is expected of them. So I am aware. Now I cannot make this decision, so let me leave it for my wife, or let me leave it for my husband. The next is optimism. And with this, I can see that we are coming close to 8 o'clock. I want to give some time for you to ask questions. Optimism. Now, any one of us knows that we can look at a white wall and see the black spot. We can look at a half empty bottle and see the half empty part, but we also can realize that the bottle is half filled. And so optimism means I am willing, I am able, and I will attempt to look at the positive in my spouse. And if it is your spouse, you do not need to look so hard because it is there. You are the one who chose this partner. You are the one who made that commitment. So you can see the beauty, the novelty. You can see everything in a positive way. And this is how you must be able to look at your spouse. So you look at your spouse in such a manner that he or she will grow. And this is, in a way, how our families can grow. And penultimately, I want to sing, not sing so much, but recite the words of this hymn. And the reason why I have chosen this is because it puts the responsibility on you. It's not my spouse, it's not my husband, it's not my wife, but it's I who builds the family. And then, of course, it's you who builds the family, and it's we. So you notice, I begin by accepting responsibility for building the family. And I say to you, you also are part of building a family. And I say then, we together, whether with the children, if they are with you, no children, then husband and wife are the ones who build the family. I want to thank you for your attention and pray that God will bless you all. Now I leave Anita to organize the questions that you might have and to ask them. And Anita will let me know what the questions are. I'm trying to see if I can see them in the chat myself. Hi, Father, can I please have your contact information? Please, coming from an interfaith marriage, would love to get some insight from you. Okay. I am at the moment in India, and I will give you my contact number. My contact number I've got a mobile phone. I just got a mobile phone. All these years, I never had a mobile phone, but I'm giving you my mobile number. And I'm also giving you my email address. So you can take my email address also. I'm very quick at answering emails. You can take my email address. So there it is to you. I'm giving you a chance for everyone to see. So if you want everyone to see, everyone can see. Please put the questions. Anita is saying, please put the question in the chat. Could we get a recording of the meeting so we can refer to it? Of course. As a matter of fact, that reminded me. Let me stop.